So, this is a very ironic video to make because I was watching different takes on coffee over the years because it's my favorite drink of choice, my favorite, you could say, jug of choice. And ironically, I just made a podcast episode on being the example rather than saying something. That'll be a link in the description below. But for this, I want to expose kind of my hypocrisy a little bit because coffee is definitely my vice. Everybody has their vice. So let's go over here. You can see how large my coffee mug is. If you could see that here. And so, yeah, coffee is definitely my drug of choice. And I end up sometimes because patterns of patterns change, I think, as things fluctuate. And I'm finding myself having a little more at night to do, and it's not something that I feel like is a huge problem. But I'm finding myself giving myself a little more time at night. And I think that's a little bit more when the family tends to spend a little more time together. So I've decided there's a couple ways that to manage this. In a kind of a semi-healthy, at least, way. Not perfect, but, kind of a semi-healthy way of having coffee. So this mug I probably will not finish. It is my husband's that he did not finish. And I said I wasn't even going to drink it at all. And for the past couple days, I have not. But again, I feel like at night has been a little bit more of the time that we're all spending a little time together. This year has been crazy. So you could say that's my excuse. But, if you're somebody who needs to pull an all-nighter or somebody who just wants to stay up a little bit later like me and doesn't want to rush right off to bed because maybe there's spending that time with family, or, there's just some things you want to make sure is taken care of a little easier and you want to be a little more awake and you don't want to be zombified. Maybe, for example, your washing machine works a little better at night because of electricity. Things of that nature, things that, valid reasons. A couple of things to do to manage this coffee is, if you've drank it, for a long time, eventually, you'll be able to, or even if you try this practice, you'll be able to, for example, take coffee naps where, and this is definitely a scientific study, and I will put that in the description below. I'll put that first because that's going to be the most important, where either drinking coffee to replace sleep or going to sleep to replace energy as a power nap, the two alone is not really effective. So a coffee nap can be where you have your coffee, and then if you need to, for about 20 minutes, you call it whatever you want. You nod off to sleep. You take your power nap, you meditate, but for about 20 minutes, you turn everything off as the coffee kind of kicks in. That is what is called a coffee nap. Now, my rule though, and I do these coffee naps sometimes kind of as needed. I don't do it too much anymore because I do sleep in a little bit more now. Lately with holidays and things, I've just kind of, needed a little more sleep because I have been up a little later at night. But my rule on coffee, and this is a good one, is to always make sure you're eating something. And I know that I've talked in the past about intermittent fasting and things, but if you, for example, have an empty stomach and you're drinking coffee, there's already acid that's in your stomach that's kind of helping keeping things clean, and you're just adding to that acid when you add coffee into the mix, because it coffee is definitely very acidic, and even the organic coffees, the smoother coffees, does have even just a little bit of acid. That's where the bitter taste comes in. But again, I've never really been a night person, to be honest with you. Whereas my family tends to be. So if I kind of want to get things done, I don't mind somewhat. Because there is a time where we sit down, we learn things like that. But I think when you have anything or anyone to take care of, whether that's your creative endeavors, your animals, your kids, time with your family, when it comes to things that you have to be there for, I think some things are justified. And when you have a cup of coffee and you kind of feel that it's getting to be too much, you'll start to shake a little bit. Some people do. I've never gotten to that point because my awareness comes down to a little bit beyond alertness, a little bit to where I'm alert, but I'm a little bit jittery. Everybody gets a little jitter with the coffee, but like I said, I think some things are a little bit justified when you have things that are important to you. Some people it's Coke. Some people it's I'm drinking water to stay hydrated, but I drink so much that I go to the bathroom a lot. Some people it's I eat so much sugar that I tend to crash a lot, or I'm energetic in a burst of energy and then I crash a lot. Things like that. But again, if there's something that's important to you, I think managing this can be okay. And so, the no empty stomach rule is definitely the number one rule. And drinking water alongside your coffee to keep hydrated is definitely the next, I would say, number one rule, the second number one rule, if you will. And lastly, to pay attention to how my stomach is feeling as I'm drinking coffee. And drink as much as I want to tolerate that day. The other day it was way less. Actually, yesterday it was way less. Not that this matters, because you could be watching this. It doesn't matter, when you're watching this. The fact is that I think days can fluctuate with different vices too. And I think that, when I've seen some of these videos, I've seen stay away from coffee completely, or stay away. And to me, you're not being controlled by the drug itself anymore. Maybe you personally have overdosed on it. And so for you personally, it's something you just can't handle. And so you do other things, or it's something that you don't want in your body anymore, and it makes you sick, and maybe you've tried it, or you never did like it, you never liked the taste or the smell, or you like the smell and not the taste, and so you kind of you don't really care. But the other thing is, be aware of the stomach, how you're feeling, your head, how it's feeling. Another thing I do to supplement this too, because I just love hot beverages. My throat prefers heat over cold. I've never really been like a cold water drinker. If I get thirsty and it's hot, or if I get thirsty, certainly like I'll appreciate the cold taste of water, the taste of it though. My throat though does not like anything cold going down. Like I don't like swallowing ice cubes, or nobody really likes swallowing ice cubes, but for me, if I swallow too much of something cold, it's like the same equivalent. And my throat just tends to feel comfortable. It tends to work better. I tend to feel like I speak better. So if I don't have as much coffee, or, if I have some coffee and then later on I will settle in with a cup of hot tea. It also, I think, there's some hot drinks, whether that's cocoa, although I'm not a huge sugary person, but I'm not going to sit there and say sugar's terrible either, because, it's around us and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not one to say that just because something doesn't work for me, it shouldn't work for you. But what I will say is that, when it's not the coffee and it's the tea, it's still hot and it supplements that. And there's herbs and health benefits in tea. There are some in coffee too, but tea, I've had to learn the same thing. Make sure it's not a completely empty stomach and be aware of how I'm feeling, whether my stomach gets nauseous or, just really pay attention. I think that's the thing, is just that having that overall awareness, the head, the stomach, the jitters, whatever. And that could apply to that too. That could really apply to anything you put in your body. But somebody who's not, threatened by what other people do, or really, really scared of it, will say, I don't care what you do. I just don't want it in my body. It doesn't work for me, but I don't care what you do if it works. So, if you see these videos and you're a little concerned, maybe take what they say for a grain of salt. But, don't let fear control you either and say, oh, I have to hate something now, because that's not healthy either. And, if you've been watching and keeping up with my shows and stuff, that's something I've had to learn this year. So, anyway, I've really enjoyed having this talk with you. You can comment your thoughts below, or just stay tuned and keep watching. Links down below. You can learn what a coffee nap is, if that's something that could help you get a little calmer if you do drink coffee, and kind of help you get a little bit more of that benefit from sleep integrated with your coffee. And my episode on what not to do, or being the example versus doing what I say, not as I do, that podcast episode will also be down below if you wanted to get in on that conversation. So thanks again for watching, and we'll talk again soon.